and one of our biggest supporters, our premier sponsor, the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. We could not have put this together and gotten to this point without them. We have the CEO, Lisa Oliver, on the line with us today, and she'd like to say a few words to everybody before we get started.
Thanks, Lauren. Good morning, everybody. I forgot my old job. We were always on WebEx calls or something of that sort because we had people all around the country, and I haven't been doing it for about 4 years. And when I pulled it up, I was like, my God, I think I aged about 15 years. So good. I'm not going to stare at myself in the pictures, but I will look at you guys. You know, normally I'd be addressing you in person at our Shape the Cape Summit. And I want to commend Lauren and actually all of you guys involved for being so quick to pivot from having the summit to still providing important information that's going on. You know, talking about a different type of way of doing business. I think we're all learning how to live differently. In fact, making the old new again is part of what has become interesting, I think, in a lot of people's lives. My 21-year-old who helped me get on the call this morning, who has lost his senior spring and graduation at this point, has started digging out our old Legos from when he was growing up that we've actually kept. So we have a Lego factory going in the house again. I tracked down some puzzles, had to dig them out of probably the last thing we packed in for our move from Ohio back east. And I actually found a puzzle of the New York City skyline that still has the Twin Towers. So we're talking, I have some old stuff in this house. And then last night we pulled out Cards Against Humanity. And I was like, I remember why you have to have a few drinks before you play this. And it wasn't all that fun with my husband, my son, and I. So it's definitely a big crowd type of thing. But we're starting to have some fun, and I think communicating in a different way while practicing social distancing, a term that wasn't even in our lexicon even 2 weeks ago. But I think the importance of connecting with each other is going to reset a standard for us as we move forward, and maybe are not less technology driven, but less email and text oriented. And I'm hoping face-to-face conversations and phone calls become something that carries through. I'm even noticing with my team and leading a group at the bank, we're all in different places now. So my leadership takes on a whole different focus. As a team at the bank, we're also really recognizing how many of our nonprofit partners have had to cancel or postpone events that normally would have happened this year. It's really amazing when you stop the music to see the impact. And these events are a huge source of revenue for our nonprofits. And so we've been trying to navigate to say, how do we keep our money with you guys and just figure out different ways to do things? So Lauren invited me to speak at the next 4 weeks, you know, a quick hello as we kick off. And I think that's wonderful. We're happy to support where we're going. We're doing a lot of pivoting at the bank too. My team, I'm super proud of them, and just saying that doesn't quite do it justice. How to pivot, how to manage, how to respond to a crisis, maintaining customer service. It makes me really proud of what we're trying to do, although it seems to be a daily event. Actually, 10 a.m. Today, our pandemic response team was meeting, so I'm going to jump off of this call and get on that. Staying healthy is important, so we're trying to make sure we're checking in on that and dealing with the response to COVID. Not just, we're kind of dealing with two crises, certainly at the bank, which is the COVID issue with all our employees who are top priority, all of our clients who are top priority, and our community members who are top priority. But we're also trying to deal with the financial crisis. It's not the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, or even 2001. It's driven completely differently, but we know we're going to see some pretty significant more challenges. I can tell you the volume of businesses who are reaching out to say, I can't make payments, is really significant. And that's not to incite nerves. It's just to say, we're all in this together and we need to figure out how to walk through that. And I think the topic this morning, practicing mindfulness, is critical in the process. So I'm sorry I can't stay. I'm sure I would benefit, but I know you guys will all benefit from listening to Jenifer Dibble this morning. So we're all disappointed on missing out on this summit, but I'm excited for the series. I want to, you know, stay connected with all of you. Thank you for doing your part to stay mentally and hopefully physically healthy. And I look forward to staying connected over the next couple weeks. So with that, Lauren, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I think,
Sure.
again, it's just a testament to, I think, the trust and the relationship building that can happen the best of cases with funders and nonprofits like CCYP. When our plans are changed, being able to collaborate and work together to change course rapidly and try to.
Yeah, it's really important. There's no
question.
question.
Community. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
So with that, I want to introduce our speaker for today. We have Jenifer Dibble, LICSW, who's going to join us and speak with us about mindfulness. And I think that with everything that's been going on, we could all benefit from a lot of guidance on this topic and the strategies that come along with it. Jenifer was planned to speak at the summit, and so we appreciate, as with the Cooperative Bank, we appreciate Jenifer's willingness to pivot and change course with us and try something a little different. And we hope that this is beneficial to all of you, because I think really what we're looking for is to be able to offer opportunities for everyone connecting with each other, getting together informally, sharing experiences and ideas. And so while Jenifer is initially presenting, I'm going to ask that everybody mute their microphone so that we don't have any background noise, but please use the chat feature in Zoom. You can type in questions, and then toward the second half of the session, we'll open it up and we can have more of a discussion, more informal chat with Jenifer, and everybody can share maybe experiences or tips or best practices or anything that you're finding that's working for you, because I think we're all kind of in a new territory here, and it's helpful for everybody to be able to collaborate with each other and share ideas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jenifer. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Lauren and Lisa, also for supporting as well. I'll start by saying I am currently engaging in my own mindfulness practice. Both speaking in front of people and technology are both challenges for me. So I'll share that to start. And I think that an important point to mindfulness is noticing that challenges create an opportunity. So this current challenge that we all share together is a perfect way to notice that challenge as an opportunity for us. I'd like to start, I'll share John Kabat-Zinn's definition of mindfulness. So he started MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. And at the end, I'll give a couple resources and tips and things like that. So I'll share a little bit more. But how he describes mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So that is the practice. In thinking about this and how to express this to people, being a mental health therapist, I share in every starting session with people a description of the brain, a short description. So I think that might be helpful in noticing what's going on within ourselves. So many of you may have heard of parts or all of this. I do it in a very simple way. And again, at the end, you can ask any questions. In our brain, we have a very small part in the back of our head. So if this is our spinal column, at the very top of the spinal column, there's a small part of the brain called the amygdala. That's in charge of fight, flight, or freeze. That's the part of the brain that keeps us safe. And it is the smoke detector for the brain. So if something is going wrong, if we perceive something is going wrong, real or imagined, which is important, that part of the brain will be triggered. And when that part of the brain is triggered, the rest of the brain at least partially shuts down. We can now see that through brain scans. So when the amygdala fires, for instance, the prefrontal cortex, where we do all of our thinking, socializing with other people, figuring out what to do next, goes at least partially offline when the amygdala is triggered, activated. So if you think about that, I often say to people, have you ever been so mad you say things you don't really mean, or you would say it in a different way? And so that's a really good example of the prefrontal cortex going offline when the amygdala is activated. Another thing that happens is we are flooded with chemicals and hormones. Certain body systems shut down and other body systems turn on. And that can be really helpful for us in a life or death, actual life or death situation, but it's not helpful for our brains or bodies when it is not an actual life or death situation. In our current situation, I understand that that may be even more heightened. So we may actually then think, oh no, this is life or death. And I think that's where mindfulness comes in. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So if you can imagine for a moment a zebra and a lion, and the zebra is just hanging out eating some grass, the lion starts sneaking up on it. And the zebra, when it senses the lion coming closer, its amygdala is activated. And it's only activated because it's afraid. That is true for humans as well. The amygdala only activates when we're afraid. So as the lion creeps closer, the zebra's amygdala fires and it takes off into flight mode. So it gets out of the way, unless it's a direct attack, then it will fight. So it takes off, and when the zebra gets to safety, it literally shakes all the way down its spine and goes back to eating grass. So if you think about if you have a dog at home, stranger comes to the door, all the fur on the back of the spine stands up. And then when they notice the stranger is friendly, they wag their tail, right? So that's a more home-based version of it, if you can imagine that. And they go right back to a relaxed state. They don't keep thinking like the zebra, if it had a large prefrontal cortex, like a human being might keep thinking, is that lion coming back? Oh, I know what he's gonna do. He's gonna come back in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping, and he's gonna bring all of his friends. He's gonna attack me and I'm gonna die. Zebras don't do that. Human beings do that because we have a very large prefrontal cortex, which allows us to do all the wonderful things that we do, invent and create and think about what we're going to do next and plan. But it gets in the way a lot for human beings. We tend to overthink. We often have situations where we may plan and think about an event, like me speaking in front of you today, that could activate that amygdala. Oh, it's going to go horribly. I'm going to forget everything I'm going to say. I think that all, if not many of you, can think of times when that has happened to you, and then it happens and you're like, oh, that wasn't too bad anyway. So we overthink things. And that's where mindfulness comes in. So there's a space in between that reaction that happens in the body when we become afraid. That's an automatic response. Pretty hard, if impossible, to stop that automatic response, but that response only lasts for 90 seconds in the body unless we continue to rethink and activate it again. So therefore, thinking, firing, and literally making ourselves crazy, I believe. So in that space, when we notice this response, and it might be helpful to know a little bit about what happens when the amygdala is triggered, our eyes will dilate to take in more information. Our breathing will change, our heart rate will change, our entire digestive system will shut down because there's no need to digest food when we're running away from a lion. And reproductive systems will also be affected. And that's just a few things, along with the rush of adrenaline, the creating of cortisol, all of the things, again, that help us when we're in an actual life or death situation. You know, we've heard the stories about people being able to lift up a car. That's when it's really helpful, or lesser situations than that. But it's really helpful during that time and not in many others. So the first step, what I would say, is noticing what's happening in the body. So I like to think of mindfulness as bringing the mind and the body to the same place at the same time. And so noticing when those thoughts have taken us away. So if I'm drinking a cup of tea and I'm thinking about this presentation that I'm about to give in an hour from now, I am not in the present moment of drinking my tea. And I understand that many of us may think, well, but I need to be planning about that. But actually, the mind works a lot better if we can bring ourselves back into the present moment, drinking the tea, staying present, and then continuing to move forward into the next thing that we need to do afterwards. I am not naive to the fact that we also do need to plan, and that this current situation may be invoking that need to plan even more so for us now. So it is a practice. It's a practice. There are 7 main steps or pillars of mindfulness. And the first one is non-judging, or one of them is non-judging. So if I was drinking this tea this morning and thinking about this upcoming meeting, I might go to that place of thinking, oh, I'm going to fail. I'm going to do horribly. I'm going to forget everything. And then I would notice that that was judging myself. So therefore, bringing myself back into the present moment, feeling my body in the present moment, and being kind to myself. Hasn't happened yet. I haven't failed yet. And just noticing that. So when we practice the kindness to ourselves, it often, I hear, actually, when I talk about kindness to self, I often hear people say, well, that feels selfish. You know, maybe I should be taking care of this person right now rather than drinking my tea and staying in the present moment. And what I have found through working with a lot of people in this practice, as well as my continual practice myself, is that we become so much kinder to everybody around us if we first start with ourselves. If we can really be kind, to notice how we're thinking, notice what the thoughts are, but just observe them. And then play with the idea of being kind to ourselves. Is that true right now in this present moment? No. It wasn't true in that moment, drinking tea before this. So non-judging, or kindness to self and others, is one of the pillars. Non-striving is another one. So that's to be, to not force the outcomes or results, and to allow ourselves to continue to be in the present moment. Right now. Right now, all of us that are here sharing this you may be observing thoughts that are pulling you out of the room. Or you may be noticing that we are all fully present with each other right now, in this moment. We are all safe. We are all well. We are here. So noticing that, not forcing what may happen. And that also comes up, the mindfulness practice and my mental health practice are greatly intertwined. I'm also a yoga teacher, so I find them all to be very connected as well. And so through my practice with other people and myself, I find this, we tend to want to force an outcome of something. But if we can ask ourselves the question, what if I didn't force that? What if I just stepped back, allowed myself to create that space? Can I be curious about what might happen next? And as we practice that, we tend to see things work out a little bit differently, most of the time more smoothly. And so just playing with that idea. Another pillar of mindfulness is acceptance. So this feels a little bit similar. Just accepting how things are in the present moment. And I would say that for me, that includes both the non-striving and the non-judging, the acceptance of what is in this moment. So I had a recent experience in which I went to a 7-day silent retreat, and that was interesting and created a lot of challenges. And we were silent, so I wasn't able to speak when something really, that one of the teachers really said that hit me very much in the wrong way. And not having that ability to speak caused a large challenge for myself. So I continued to move through that, noticing and observing. This was actually a mindfulness training of 7 days of silence. And so just noticing my own thoughts about the teacher, about myself, about the situation. And interestingly, that night she gave a talk, and she asked this question. I don't even remember what the talk was, but she asked the question, can you be with this? And so for me in that moment, it was, oh, can you be with this? Me, having this silent conflict with her. And so I had to ask myself that question, can I be with this? Can I be with the thoughts in my head? Can I be in this situation and not want to run away, which I did. That was my amygdala firing. And then she's like, and can you answer the question with yes? And so I think that's a really great question that I've continued to play with for myself, with my clients, with people that I work with. Just asking the question, can I be with this? And I think if we all asked ourselves that question right now, can I be with this? We might not have another answer, but yes, because what else are we gonna do? This is our current situation. We have all been greatly affected. None of us really let out of that affectedness. We're all in this together. And so, can you be with us? I answer yes. And then as I continued that practice while I was there, I came up with a mantra for myself. So a statement that you would repeat over and over if thoughts continue to intrude into the mind. So I would ask myself the question, can I be with this? Answer yes. And then I added trust. So trusting in the process. knowing I didn't have any control over the process, and let go. And so the let go piece was, for me, continuing to say this: yes, trust, let go. Yes, trust, let go, until I found that the thoughts actually did let go. Letting go is, something that we often talk about often in therapy or in other aspects, and it's a really difficult one. And so I offer the suggestion of coming up with maybe using that statement: yes, trust, let go, or something that calls to you that you can put on repeat in your mind when you find your mind is circling. And then notice the change. Notice what change could come from that. So interestingly enough, not that I planned that, but the fourth pillar of mindfulness is letting go. So I just gave you a little suggestion for that. I find that something else that is helpful with letting go is going back to the observing the thoughts, observing the body and its reactions it's having right now, and then engaging the kindness to ourselves. Can we give ourselves a moment to take a deep breath? So I will bring in right now the importance of breathing, which we have all probably heard since we were a little child. Oh, take a breath, count to 10. We dismiss these things, shake it off, take a breath. But I find them to be really important and powerful. So now that I know a little bit more about neuroscience, I understand the breath a little bit more. And what the breath does is, when we're in that tiny little part in the brain, the amygdala, and our breathing has changed and our heart rate has changed because we are getting ready to run or fight, the fastest way out of the amygdala is to take a long, deep breath. And that also creates the space for us to start observing, for us to slow down, and to find kindness for ourselves. So the breath actually is, I find, probably the most important thing that any one of us could do. Isn't that intriguing that we're also facing a situation in which breath is extremely important? And so can we find gratitude in our ability to take a long, deep breath? Can we use that? Can we be grateful and engage it? A long, deep breath. Maybe we should all take one now. We'll take the opportunity. If I was in person with you all, it would be a very interactive engagement. So can we soften the eyes or close the eyes for a moment? And first, just notice where the thoughts are. And can you notice that without judging them, but rather observing them? So imagining maybe being on a train, your thoughts are outside the train, and you just see them moving by as you would see the scenery. Just beginning to observe, creating a little bit of distance from the thoughts. And can you notice what is actually happening in your body right now? Sensations occurring in your body, heartbeat, breath, shaking, pulsing. Noticing the body. And then can you begin to take a little bit longer breath than you had a moment ago? Can you breathe in a little bit more deeply? And can you breathe out a little bit longer? And And then taking one more, taking in a little bit deeper of a breath and letting it go. And gently opening the eyes and coming back. And can you notice a change, perhaps, that has happened for yourself just in that moment? So the fifth element of mindfulness is beginner's mind. And I love this one because I am not the expert on mindfulness. And the people that we think are experts may say exactly the same thing, because there's an element of beginner's mind. So to know that in every moment, we start again. So it doesn't matter if this is your first experiment with mindfulness or if you've been playing with it for a long time. Knowing that every moment, every opportunity, every challenge, we are starting at the beginning. So just knowing that. And I think that creates a really wonderful basis for the kindness and the ability to observe. Beginner's mind. Beginner's mind also, I believe, is a wonderful opportunity to engage in curiosity. So rather than the thoughts of fear, this will happen, that will happen, can we be curious? I think this challenge creates a wonderful opportunity for curiosity. Can we be curious? We heard in the very beginning, you know, the new becoming old. And can we be curious about that? Can we be curious about how we will connect with people? What challenges we'll move through? Like me moving through technology. Can we stay curious? Can we be okay with not knowing? And then the sixth pillar is patience. So I think that is also kind of melded into all of them as well. Patience with ourselves, I see as kindness for ourselves. Patience to know that this is a practice rather than an end result. Patience with ourselves. And the final pillar is trust. Trusting that you all have exactly what you need in order to be able to engage in this practice. I think there's so many beautiful things about this practice. One of them is that it does not cost any money. It hardly takes time. I say hardly. The more you practice, the more time it takes. But for instance, one of the most common things in mindfulness, one of the most common examples is if you're washing the dishes, can you engage mindfulness in the washing of dishes? Can you be in that moment? Many of us would like the dishes to just be magically done, but can we be in the moment of feeling our hands under the warm water? Can we be in the moment of cleaning and feeling that satisfaction? Can we be in that moment, feeling our breath, feeling our feet on the ground, and staying present? So those are the 7 pillars. I know it's 10:36, so I'm not sure, Lauren, if you'd like to open it up. I do have some tips and resources, but I'm open to questions as well.
Please keep going. I think the tips and resources would be great. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, if you have questions, remember you can use the function too. Yeah, keep going. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So I mentioned John Kabat-Zinn, who is the founder of MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And one of the first things I did on my journey was an 8-week online free course in MBSR. You can find it on Palouse, spelled P-A-L-O-U-S-E, mindfulness.com. Again, it's free, it's 8 weeks. This is somebody who is certified in MBSR and has created this resource for people online. It is wonderful. There are articles, videos, activities. You could take a little bit or the whole thing. I would say that any of it is useful. There are worksheets for the complete 8-week course. You could even get a certificate in mindfulness by doing this course. And it's a really beautiful way to begin understanding the process and observing yourself. So I think that's wonderful. If anyone has access to any of the online book resources, one of my most favorite books, which is easy to read even though it's an autobiography, is called Into the Magic Shop by James Doughty. So he's a neurosurgeon who grew up in a very disruptive home life and childhood, and he does it in such a wonderful way. His writing feels like a work of fiction, but he incorporates his knowledge of neuroscience into telling his life story from a young boy. And he is actually introduced to somebody in a magic shop who gives him mindfulness-based tools that he then incorporates into his life at an early age. I won't give away all of it. It's really wonderful, but there are actual techniques in the book as well. So I would encourage that. Some of the ways that I wrote down real quickly to bring ourselves into the present moment. So the first is to just notice that any moment, any challenge is an opportunity. So that goes back to the dishes or me speaking right now, or whatever challenges you all may face in this moment or throughout the day and the days to follow, that each moment is an opportunity to play with and experience mindfulness in action. One of the tools that I first started given before I even really had an understanding of mindfulness was an anxiety reducing skill that I taught people, which is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, using your senses. So 5 is being in your present moment. What 5 things do you see? What 4 things do you hear? What 3 things can you touch? What 2 things can you smell? Maybe there's a taste, or maybe you take a deep breath and taste that deep breath. No right order to the using the senses. So no judgment there, just playing with it. The more detailed you get, the more you will get out of it. So if I said lamp, door, floor, table, if I listed like that, I'm not really getting into the moment. But if I said, I see the light shining through the door, I see the dust on the shelf, whatever it may be, getting detailed. Pulling yourself into the present moment. So that's actually a good noticing right there, right? If I was practicing my mindfulness and I noticed the dust on the shelf, my mind may go in that direction. And the question is, do I allow it to follow that? Oh, I should get up right now and I should clean that off. Oh, I'm such a horrible person for having dust on the shelf. Whatever. Do I follow that train? Do I become attached to that? Or can I allow myself to come back into the present moment? And so mindfulness would say, come back to the present moment. Dust can wait. I highly encourage, and have been for years, but especially during this time, a practice of meditation. So some of you may already have that. There are so many online apps currently. A lot of them have just opened up to free access. So a few that come to mind are Stop, Breathe, and Think, Insight Timer, Waking Up, Headspace, 10% Happier, Calm. Those are the ones that come to mind. I would say there's also no judgment, no right or wrong answer there. Find something that feels right for you. A voice that feels soothing. Many of the meditations will have the same feeling, and I really encourage guided meditations in the beginning because it helps with when our mind carries us away, if there's a voice that helps bring us back, that's really helpful. So there's a lot of research out there to show that even 5 minutes a day, which I think we all are also having the luxury of a little bit more time now in some ways not so much. But 5 minutes, could we find 5 minutes in which we could give ourselves this formal practice of sitting? Mindfulness is a more informal practice, and so meditation would be engaging a more formal practice, an actual sitting. And again, only really needs to be 5 minutes. You may find that it grows longer and longer, and I highly encourage that. The longer we can actually learn to sit with ourselves and to observe ourselves with kindness, the stronger our brain actually is, and therefore the stronger our body is as well. I would actually like to mention, now that I'm thinking about it, long deep breaths, meditation, practice of mindfulness, all increase our immune systems. When the amygdala is firing, that tiny part in our brain, our immune system is one of those systems that is suppressed. We don't need it if we're running away from the lion. So, really important to engage it now. So, I would encourage you to notice how the body feels. Breathe, stay in the present moment, and know that by practicing that, you are automatically increasing your immune system's ability to function healthy and well. Also, being a yoga teacher, yoga is a wonderful way. So I see nodding, that's awesome. I do have a YouTube channel, and so I think you can just search me, Jenifer spelled with one N, Jenifer Dibble, LICSW, and it's a growing channel. So through this challenge, I have said I'm working on my relationship with technology. I have just started live streaming some of my classes at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you can also watch them at any time. So this morning's class was a restorative yoga class, which is, I describe lying on pillows. So we can all do that form of of yoga. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock will be a chair yoga class. So I really believe that mindfulness, yoga, meditation can be done free with anybody, for anybody. And I think that's really important for all of us. Is there a question? A few breathing methods. Oh, I'd love to. I just saw part of that, but breathing methods. Sure, I'd love to. So if you'd like to experiment with that, placing one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and again, allowing yourself to soften your gaze and focus on one spot, or close your eyes. So I would just start by noticing the breath. There's no need to change it or judge it. Just noticing your own breath in this moment. Noticing the thoughts that you're having and just engaging a visualization of that train or a stream. Just watching it go by, clouds, allowing the thoughts to just go, not become attached. And then beginning to breathe a little bit more deeply. Breathing in, maybe feeling the belly expand and that lower hand lift. And on the exhale, feeling the deflate and allowing your muscles to soften. So breathing in, filling the body with as much air as possible. Again, not judging, just staying curious. Breathing out, feeling the relaxation, allowing your shoulders to soften, melting into the chair. And take a few more breaths here in your own pace and time. Breathing in, breathing out. Just expanding the body as much as possible, staying curious about that. And with each exhale, softening the body. Allowing your hands to fall wherever they're comfortable. Gently opening the eyes. So that quick version there, but something to play with. So just engaging the belly. You can do that lying down. Didn't mention that, but included in the everybody can do this. Laying down in a bed, breathing is perfect. Meditating is perfect. You can even do yoga from bed. So breathing in, breathing out, sitting in a chair, standing, laying, just playing with that expansion of the belly, which will engage the diaphragm, and then a softening of the muscles. And, you know, often we tend to be real chest breathers. Don't judge yourself for that. Just notice that. And notice as you continue to stay patient and to engage in the practice, that will most likely change for you and you will start feeling a difference with your breathing. So that is one. You could also play with counting the breath. So this is really helpful right before bed. So if you breathe in and you just experiment, stay curious, breathe in and count how far you can take the breath. Breathe out, see if you can match that. Breathe in and counting the breath, and breathe out and match that. I find that's a really nice way to kind of lull yourself into sleep. Again, with kindness and practice and patience. But, you know, we say counting sheep for a reason. So the counting keeps the mind occupied, and the breathing lets the body know that you are safe and not in direct threat. So those are a couple ways. I'm happy to start posting some more and longer breathing activities on my YouTube as well. So thanks for that suggestion. I just wanted to mention two more.
It looks like, Jennifer. That's a great one. A lot of us are coming into contact with toxic interactions. For example, people projecting stress onto us and others. Do you have any tips for dealing with that?
Yeah, great point. Thank you. Something important to know about the amygdala is that if one person's amygdala is firing, another person's will automatically fire as well. We see it as a direct threat. So that's what I'm hearing in that question. Somebody may come to us on a screen in some way, or in our home or grocery store, wherever that interaction may happen. And I think we can all agree and remember times where we have immediately felt that as well. So I would say notice that. Right now you have more information about the brain. So notice if that person is coming at you, and I heard the word toxic. So I would say they're in their amygdala, right? They're afraid. It often doesn't show up as fear. It shows up as anger because we're in fight mode, or avoidance or high anxiety because we're in flight mode, or we're totally frozen, but that person may not actually feel toxic to you. So can you observe that? Can you observe that this other person is in their amygdala right now, that they are afraid? Can you observe that? And then can you take that moment for yourself to notice that your amygdala is firing? And then can you engage this practice in that present moment? And that does not at all mean that we should stay in dangerous situations. If it is actually life-threatening, then that's the proper time to leave. But I think what the question was referring to was more that interaction. So seeing this as an opportunity to create a little bit more space with people, which I think is we're kind of being forced to do as well. So can we create that space for ourselves? And if it is somebody in your home, playing with that practice yourself, you know, in that moment. Does that help? I think it's really about the observing the other person, noticing where their brain's at, and then coming back to the present moment for yourself, observing your own state, taking care of your own state, kindness to self. What does that one say, Lauren?
It says, any tips to let the people in our home know we need some space to breathe and meditate?
I highly encourage communication. Oh, nice. Oh, sorry, I'm reading.
Why don't we unmute? We can have a little bit more of it. We've got about 5 minutes left, and how about we unmute and we can have a little bit more of a conversation here. And please continue, Jenifer. But I just want to free it up for everybody for a second too.
Yeah. So touching on that last one, you know, I recognize that to be a problem as well, and I am in a very small house with a lot more people than usual, as some of us may be. So I think, you know, being a mental health therapist, communicate and using the pillars of mindfulness. So can we communicate in a kind way, right? Being kind to ourselves to take that space, but also expressing that kindly to somebody else. So
maybe an example of what you would say to someone if you're just really in that moment where you need the space. How would you put it?
I might say something like, I'm noticing I'm having a reaction, like my heart's really big. I just need a minute. I'm just going to go take a minute.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I live by myself, so I can't fully relate, but my go-to is always to be out in nature. So if it's possible, I think a lot of times like creating physical space helps with that boundary. So even if you're uncomfortable saying something, it could just be as simple as, I'm going to go out and take a walk, and even just getting out for like 15 or 20 minutes can help to clear your head and give you that physical space. But I mean, that's a tool that I use very frequently when I feel my anxiety rising. It's just being out in nature is always really helpful.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Nature hadn't come into the talk yet, and I'm grateful that it did. Yes, we can all at least go outside of our homes. So taking the opportunity to do that. This morning I was outside and I was like, oh, nature's not stopping. There's forsythia, so that's a wonderful way. Go outside.
What other challenges is everybody encountering right now in terms of just staying mentally present and healthy? And I know, Jenifer, I'm sure this has a lot of impact for being able to focus more and feel more the work that you do need to be doing. What challenges is everyone facing, or do you anticipate with everything that Jenifer's taught us today? Anybody?
Well, I'll just say for me, I definitely find it challenging. I think when we have less time, we tend to be more efficient with it. So even though I am working remotely, the work level definitely isn't to the level that I normally would be at. So having a lot of extra time, I think makes it very challenging and makes it easier for my brain to run really wild and to have that anxiety. So again, like getting out in nature is really important, but I think we're all kind of struggling with maybe having a little extra time and what to do with that, or how to balance taking advantage of rest and also being productive and trying to have maintain community. So I don't know if you have any suggestions, or if anyone else has some things that you're doing to counteract that.
I've been trying very hard to maintain a schedule that's as close to my normal day-to-day schedule as it was before, which has become a challenge because I would be at this studio for a yoga class twice a week, which I don't get to do anymore. But so going into all of this, what I've tried to do is identify things that are really important in my day-to-day and kind of change them in a way that I can balance them at home. And to go back to that question about the need for space and meditation, I was kind of just upfront with my husband that I need him to leave the room every now and then so that I can be time, and understood. A little direct walk away with that too.
This is Sam, right? Can you hold on just for 1 minute?
Yeah, so having more structure, or trying to find that in whatever way you can, it sounds like maybe I've had success with that to some degree, but I think it also requires, I don't know, Jenifer, I appreciate the things that you're saying about having grace and kindness to yourself, because that's been something that I keep trying to remind myself of as I'm working full-time from home and also homeschooling 2 children.
Mhm.
A lot of people are, you're balancing everything, a lot of things at once, even though the structure and the schedule is not as externally imposed as it maybe was at one point. So forgiving yourself when it's not what you think it should be is maybe part of that too.
Right. Perfect practice of mindfulness. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I think that it's a balance, right? Creating the structure and also knowing that that structure may change at any given moment, especially now. And being kind, as you're saying. I would encourage people, because that's come up a lot with the people that I work with as well, the decreased productivity at home, working from home, because of all of the challenges. And I would encourage people to play with before they sit down to do their work, to play with a 5-minute guided meditation. And then just stay really curious to see if you were actually more productive during that time, and then continue the practice to just say, I mean, when we end up being not productive, we definitely waste 5 minutes. Definitely, right? So can we encourage that to be a practice before we sit and start our work?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jenifer. I want to just thank you again. I hope it was as helpful for everybody else as it was for me. I found it really helpful, great reminders, and we really appreciate your time today and you sharing your knowledge. I want to share with everybody really quickly the rest of our series coming up. We should have this flyer, if it's not already up on our social media, it should be up shortly. Please share. We will post the recording of this session along with any resources that Jenifer might have mentioned. We'll try and compile those and get those posted as well, because it sounded like some really great resources. So hope that you can join us, and please spread the word about these. And if you have ideas for other sessions or topics that you think we should cover, it's possible we might continue with this if it's successful and people like it. So send ideas our way. We always appreciate them. Great.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Jenifer.
Everybody, take care.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Jenifer.
Everyone be well.